Dallas real estate is absolutely booming right now, but that doesn't mean that every house is a good buy. And I've sold hundreds of homes over the last couple of years, and I keep seeing buyers fall into the same traps, the buyers that don't work with us. And I want to caution you about that. So today I'm revealing these 6 types of homes that you should never buy, no matter how tempting the price tag may look. And wait until you hear about the #1 problem that affects almost every single house in Dallas, and something that most buyers miss until it's way too late. Now, first up, and this is very, very important, is homes with foundations problems. Now, Dallas sits on what's called a blackland prairie, and our soil is mostly black clay, which is really unstable. So the clay shrinks when it's dry and it swells when it's wet, and that can push your foundation with pretty big force. So they say up to 14,000 pounds per square foot. That's like having a small airplane sitting on your foundation. And so just like those flipped houses I'll show you later, what looks good on the surface really may be hiding some serious problems underneath. And in Dallas, we get very hot and dry summers, really followed by heavy rains, and that's just really a good mix for foundation damage. Now, when you walk into a house, you want to look for cracks near doors and windows, and I'm going to give you a little trick, which is bring a tennis ball with you and put it in the middle of the floor and see if it starts to roll one way or the other. Another trick you can do is open up doors, so just open them up about halfway and see if they fall closed or even fall more open. Then you can go outside and look for staircase like cracks in the foundation. That's something else to really keep an eye out. Because foundation repairs in Dallas, they're not cheap, and you're looking into tens of thousands of dollars, and home warranties don't usually cover that after the first 10 years, at least with new construction. So whenever you buy a new construction home, they come standard with a 10-year foundation warranty, which is pretty nice. But if you're buying an existing home, you have to keep in mind where it's at in its foundation life. Now, the good news is most homes settle within the first 3 to 5 years, and so if you make it through that first part of it, you're probably going to be okay. Here's another tip that could save you thousands, is you want to water around your foundation during the summer months. So just keep the soil moist, and that should help out quite a bit. Get a good sprinkler system, or you can do it yourself. Just don't let the clay dry out and shrink away from your foundation. Actually, you'll look, sometimes your backyard could look like the Sahara Desert, whenever you see those big cracks running throughout. That's what you don't want to see, especially around your foundation. Most new construction homes as well come with foundation irrigation around that, so you can actually turn that on to have a drip around the foundation. So foundation issues really are something you can usually spot early on, but the next group of homes to avoid often hides problems that aren't so easy to catch during a quick tour. So let's talk about condemned homes and foreclosures. And I know that price tag could really look attractive, and you've been watching a lot of reality TV, and flipping homes really, or buying foreclosed homes really looks simple to do. You just run down to the courthouse and throw a couple of bids out there, and voila, you've got a home at $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 less than the market price, which is not really the case. Now, of course, that low price tag could look really tempting, but there's really a reason that these places sell for less, and it's not usually in your favor. But foreclosed homes in Dallas are sold as is, with no seller disclosures required in Texas. So you're buying a mystery box, really, which could be fine, but could also be a complete mess. Plus, closing with banks can take forever. Actually, this last property I just closed on was a foreclosure, and we had to do 2 extensions. It actually took me almost 90 days to close because it was a foreclosure through the bank. They're just really non-responsive, not that motivated for some reason, which I know they've got to get these homes off their books. But for whatever reason, they just really drag their feet whenever it comes on responses, any requests you may have, any contingencies that come into play, so be mindful of that. But also, you can't even really use certain types of loans for these types of properties. They don't allow you to buy foreclosed homes. Now, foreclosures often sit empty for quite some time, usually with no monitoring either. I mean, nobody from the bank is going to go by and check on that. So during that time, you could have pipes freeze and burst. You could have roof leaks that go unnoticed and unfixed. You could have rats or other pests move in. You're subject to vandalism in those types of homes as well. So this type of damage could also be just as bad as living with noise pollution, which we'll talk about here in the next section. And then also you have to account for the previous owners. Most of the time, if they're getting foreclosed on, they weren't taking very good care of the place in the first. If you're a first-time home buyer or you've never done a renovation, you should probably stay away from these types of projects. Foreclosures and condemned homes, they could actually turn into a nightmare. They often need a ton of work before you can live in them, and the renovation costs could get out of control, and there's always hidden surprises whenever you start tearing up walls or floors or looking at plumbing. But on top of that, you're probably going to face higher interest rates as well, fewer loan options. Sometimes you can inherit tenants who can legally stay up to the property for up to 90 days. So in Texas, the law gives previous renters up to 90 days to move out. So, if you need to move into something right away as well, you've got to account for that. But if you still want a good deal without all of that risk, you can look for homes that have been on the market for quite some time. We refer to those as stale listings. They might need some updates, but they're typically livable and way less risky than foreclosures. So those sellers are also more willing to deal since their home hasn't sold, and right now we're getting a ton of concessions for our buyers. Now, we've seen too many families who didn't work with us lose their savings on these types of traps in Dallas. So if you're serious about buying a home here without falling into expensive pitfalls, make sure you subscribe, that we can stay up to date on everything in the Dallas market. And of course, as a subscriber, you get access to all of my neighborhood tours, community tours, and updates about everything that's happening in the Dallas area. Now, speaking of mistakes, we can move on to another type of home that really faces some unique challenges here in Dallas, especially with our crazy weather and patterns. They say here in Dallas, if you don't like the weather, just give it a minute and it will change. Now, next up on the list is going to be mobile homes, and I don't want to say that you should never buy a mobile home, but here in North Texas, we need to think about safety because we definitely get tornadoes around here. We're at the tip of Tornado Alley, and actually one of the location factors we'll get into in a minute that makes such a huge difference in Dallas. But Dallas sees several tornadoes every year. Now, by the way, I've lived here for 25 years. I've never had an issue with tornadoes. We do get tornado warnings once or twice a year, and we have had a couple of touchdowns throughout Dallas, but there hasn't been any significant damage or death. Actually, a couple of years ago, there was some damage, but no deaths from that. So, it's a love-hate relationship with it, but I wouldn't worry about it. I'm not. Clearly, I'm still living here after 25 years. But the facts on mobile homes in these storms are pretty scary. So weather data shows that people are 15 to 20 times more likely to get hurt in a mobile home during a tornado compared to a regular house. So even well-anchored manufactured homes really don't hold up in bad storms. A tornado with winds that might just damage a regular home could completely destroy a manufactured home. And again, I've lived here for 25 years, and while I've been lucky to really avoid direct tornado problems, they can definitely come through the area. And as far as mobile homes, they're usually the first to go. Now, insurance for manufactured homes cost more as well, and you don't really get the same coverage as regular homeowners insurance. So, plus many areas around Dallas have rules about where you can put a mobile home on top of that, and many neighborhoods don't allow them at all. You have to typically find a mobile home park. So if you're looking for housing options in Dallas, there are many other types of properties worth considering that offer better protection and potential value growth in or sometimes extreme weather. So, beyond the house itself, where your home is located really makes a huge difference in your Dallas living experience. Let's look at some of the high-risk spots you might want to avoid. So homes in high-risk locations in Dallas, and that covers everything from noise problems to weather danger areas as well. So living near highways like 635 or 35, railroad tracks, or under flight paths from DFW Airport or Love Field, that could mean dealing with constant noise. So some neighborhoods in Uptown and even Highland Park, which are really nice neighborhoods, sit right under Love Field's flight path with planes flying over every 2 to 3 minutes. So the noise problem is similar to those really surprise HOA bills I'll explain in just a few minutes, but both are things you don't notice until typically after you've bought. But what's funny is people tour these homes during quiet periods, and then they fall in love, and then they move in and realize that planes are just flying over all day long. So always visit a potential home at different times, maybe morning, afternoon, or afternoon, evening, to really understand what you're getting into. Now, Dallas is also known for hailstorms. We typically get hit once a year, sometimes 2 or 3 times, and serious hailstorms that can wreck roofs and cars. So if you're buying in Dallas, I think having a garage really isn't optional. It's absolutely needed for protecting your cars. And something that most buyers don't realize until it's too late is insurance for hail damage in Texas typically starts around 1% of your home's value. It can even go up to 2% or greater. So, for a $500,000 home, that could be an extra $5,000. roofs. So that's not a fun surprise to find out, especially after a hailstorm, as far as the deductible may go. So flood zones are another thing to watch out for. I mean, we're not in the coast area, but we definitely get sometimes some flash flooding with heavy rains. Doesn't really happen too often, but you definitely want to check if you're in a flood zone, because flood insurance would be additional on top of that. Although, they may not require it just based on the area. Most areas around Dallas don't require it, even if you're near something like a lake. So which Dallas neighborhoods really give the best balance for location and protection from these issues? Well, you got areas like Lakewood and Lake Highlands, which really offer, beautiful surroundings with less traffic noise and good drainage, while you've got suburbs like Frisco and Plano that tend to have newer construction with better protection against bad weather, and they've got better drainage systems as well. So the next type of property that can also really create some headaches are homes with shared walls and roofs. So let me tell you what to watch out for. And by the way, my name's Levi, and I've lived in Dallas for over 25 years and helped over 500 families just relocate here since 2021. So whether you're relocating or buying your first place, my business partner Travis and I would love to help you make a smooth move to Dallas. Now look, I'm not against HOAs, especially in single family neighborhoods, but I am worried about townhomes and condos because of what can happen with shared walls and roofs. So these can be just as tricky as those investor flipped homes I'll tell you about next. But both look great at first, but really can cause some major headaches down the road. And, if I were going to buy a duplex, I would buy the whole duplex. I wouldn't recommend buying half of a duplex because you share a wall and you share a roof. And if you're not in an HOA area, which most of the time they're not, you could face some serious problems. So just think if there was a hailstorm and it damages your shared roof, but your neighbor doesn't want to fix their half, or they can't afford to do that. So their side starts leaking, causing water damage that could run down your side of the shared wall, and then you can't make them fix it. And so, what are you going to do? It doesn't make sense to fix your wall until you get the roof fixed. And you can't just go up there and fix their roof without permission, although I guess they probably wouldn't mind it if you just paid for it on your own. But then you got condos and townhomes that have HOAs, so then you're dealing with a different type of risk, which is special assessments. And if a major repair is needed, like replacing all the roofs after a hailstorm, the HOA can hit you with a special bill that might cost $10,000 or more with almost no warning. So HOA fees in Dallas range from about $400 to over $1,000 a month, depending on the condo or townhome, and they always go up. They never go down. And I've seen special assessments as high as $20,000 per unit for major repairs, and homeowners have no choice but to pay up. So there's one type of shared wall property that can be a good investment though, which is a well-managed townhome in an established community with a strong HOA and healthy savings fund. Always look at the coffers of a townhome or condo community before you move into that, because if there's no money in the coffers, you're definitely getting hit with special assessments. Now, if it's a good type of HOA, they'll be setting money aside for these types of emergencies or mishaps down the road. All right, so now we're down to the final category of homes to avoid, and they might surprise you because they often look pretty perfect on the outside and at first glance. All right, so absolutely never buy an overpriced home, which I know sounds pretty obvious, but with so many flipped houses in the Dallas market, it's super easy to get swept away by really beautiful finishes and all of the upgrades in that home. But about 10% of Dallas homes are now bought by big investment companies. They buy the properties, put on some cosmetic updates, and then often list them way above market value. Just because a home has, fancy new countertops and nice lighting and a fresh coat of paint doesn't really justify paying more. So what really matters is the condition of the major systems: foundation, roof, plumbing, electrical, heating and cooling. And I see this all the time with a beautifully updated home that whenever you compare prices is much higher than similar homes in the area. And of course, that great looking kitchen might look amazing in the photos, but it doesn't justify paying 15% more, especially when the AC system is old and maybe the roof needs replacing. But always compare prices of similar homes and don't let, really nice cosmetic upgrades cloud your judgment. So get through inspections for any flip property, focusing on the expensive items that investors often leave alone because they cost a lot to fix and you can't really see them that easily. But here's a question you should always be asking about flip properties: and can I see permits for all of that renovation work? So many flipped homes have beautiful updates but no permits, which can really cause a big big problem when you try to sell later on or if you need to file an insurance claim. So work done without permits can even be dangerous if it wasn't done right. But imagine they added a bedroom and you don't get permitted for that, and then you want to go to try to sell it as a 4-bedroom instead of a 3, and you can't justify that on tax rolls. Plus, if you didn't pay taxes on that additional square footage over the last year, that's going to be a big problem as well. But now that we've covered the main types of homes to avoid, let's talk about how to use this information to make a smart purchase in Dallas. So again, the types of homes you should think twice about buying in Dallas is places with foundation issues, foreclosed or condemned properties, mobile homes in a tornado-prone area, houses in noisy or severe weather spots, half duplexes or shared walled properties without proper protection, and overpriced flips. But here's the good news, just by knowing what to avoid, you're already ahead of most buyers in the Dallas market, and with the right help, you can find an amazing home that you'll love living in and that should be a pretty solid investment. And so, of course, if you're thinking about buying a home in the Dallas area, myself or my business partner Travis would love to help you do that. You can just shoot us an email at info@livingindallastx.com or check the description below for all of our contact information. And by the way, check out this next video. It's going to help you on your home search. And until next time, we hope to show you around town.